Alright guys, we need to talk about Katarina right now because I mentioned in one of my videos yesterday that I think she was nerfed really heavily, and then a lot of people in the comments were saying, what do you mean? She was buffed, right? So we have different opinions here and that makes it interesting, so we have to go through it and figure out what's actually been happening with the character. I'm just going to jump straight in with the top change here. During Rage 3+4, so that's your Rage art, opponent wasn't able to do Ukemi if they hit the wall now fix. That's a bug fix to a Rage art, almost completely uninteresting. 1-1 forward. This is a Harrier transition. Input window for moves during Harrier changed from 30 to 37. Recovery increased by 8 frames. So this is something that you're going to see going through a lot of moves with Katarina. A lot of the transitions into Harrier had their recovery significantly increased, but then the window during which you can input Harrier moves was made a lot bigger, and it's going to be interesting to lab exactly what this means for Harrier stance. If this means that the move or the stance is going to be more useful as a mix-up stance, I think that's very good, because it currently doesn't serve that purpose at all. It's a very good combo stance. You use it for combos because you do this and then you do that and then you do you can do it multiple times in a single combo. You do it over and over like this because it has good carry, but it's not really useful as a combo stance because, or as a mix-up stance, sorry, because the moves out of it haven't been good enough. They gave her this Harrier up forward 3. This was a buff to her that she got in FR to make the stance better for mix-ups, but it's still not good enough. So if these changes are going to mean good things for Harrier, then that's potentially very good, but it's something that I'm going to have to try out once the patch actually drops. But moving on, 1-1-2 and 1-1-1. Opponent reaction on counter hit changed. So if we counter hit with this, you can see that it doesn't really do anything spectacular on counter hit right now. This is the 2 extension. So maybe that's going to do something more interesting on counter hit going forward. We'll just have to wait and see what that means. If it's a knockdown that gives you guaranteed up back 4, then that's going to be huge, but who knows what it's actually going to do. 1-1-3, this is the first significant buff. 1-1-3 changed from -7 to ±0, so that's pretty good because this string, this extension, doesn't see use with Katarina at the moment. She has a lot of moves actually that are kind of, there's just no reason to use them and they don't come out. 1-1-3 is like that, 1-1-4 is like that, back 2 is like, back 2 is like that, back 4 1+2 is like that. She has a couple of these, and so I think it makes sense to make this string better. And now that it's ±0, that's going to mean that it's good enough that you're going to want to bring it out, because on hit you get good stuff, but on block you're at ±0, which means you can just continue your offense. Maybe you can even set up a counter hit using this. So I think this is a significant buff, and it's going to make this string useful. You're going to see it come out starting Season 2. 3 or Wild Rising 3. Okay, so this string. This string right now is used for a couple of different things. You can use it as a keep out tool because the whole string is natural. So if you have your opponent get caught by any of these hits, you can finish the string and get guaranteed damage. It's pretty insignificant damage until the last hit, which does 15, which is pretty big. You're also using it as a combo ender at the wall for big targets like Kuma, so it's good for that. But the way you were using this move mainly is you can do the first 3 hits like that, and then you can hit confirm that, and if you get the hit you can finish the string and get the full 44 damage. That's pretty good. Problem is that they've wanted apparently to nerf this out of the game, because this 3-3-3, that one, the 3 hits, has gone from -7 to -10, so this is punishable now, which makes it a lot less useful, and it's a lot worse. It's a big deal to make a move go from safe to punishable, no matter what kind of frame data you're looking at. I mean, a nerf from like -10 to -11 is not that significant, but a nerf from -10 to from -9 to -10, from safe to punishable, is huge. It's going to determine the usefulness of the move and affect it in so many ways. It doesn't mean that the move necessarily becomes completely useless, but it could, because it's a significant enough of a nerf. So that's unfortunate for this move. It also had the damage of the first couple of hits nerfed, and then the damage of the last hit was increased by 2 points. So overall it's going to do less damage, making it a worse combo ender for large targets as well. So unfortunate. I think this string is going to be a lot worse going forward. Next, 3-4. changed from -13 to -8. So this move right here, 3-4, is another move. It exists from while standing as well. It's another move that doesn't see use with Katarina. It barely ever comes out. And the reason being that if when you want to use this move, you almost always have something better. If you want to punish from down here with a mid, you're going to use while standing too. If you want to wall splat, you have better stuff for that. So it doesn't really see use, but now it's gone from being -13 to -8 on block. So it's the reverse of this string. It's gone from being punishable to safe, which is good, but I still don't think it's enough to make this move useful. I don't think that they've changed the string enough that it's going to come out more, and I think this is going to remain obscure. But the other change to the move is that it says reaction was changed on hit and causes screw on counter hit and mid-air hit. So if you counter hit with the second hit of this, it's going to be a combo now, and it's going to be a spin move. So if you launch and do stuff like this, that's going to be a spin move. If that means that the move becomes useful as a combo tool, then that's definitely going to make it more useful. But I doubt that's the case. Harrier stance sort of takes care of your combo game currently, and it's already really strong. I don't think it's going to change much. It would have to be super significant for Katarina to want to alter her already fantastic bread and butter combos with this move, so I think this is going to remain obscure, but I might be wrong, but that's my prediction. Next, 4-4-4 forwards. This is another one of those transitions into Harrier where they've made the recovery worse, but they've made the input window for Harrier moves bigger, and like I said, that's something that we have to lab once the patch actually comes out. And now we get to really the main reason, one of the main reasons I said I think Katarina's gotten substantially nerfed yesterday. And this is really big. So, first of all, standing 4 nerfed from -7 to -9. This is the exact same thing that happened to Miguel's standing 4. So I have a feeling they're trying to homogenize Magic Force to be -9 on block, and that's kind of fine. But, and this is where it gets big, 4-4 and 4-4-4 changed from -7 to -10 on block and -5 to -10 on block respectively. Now, this counter hit 4-4 or 4-4-4 is basically Katarina's best and most powerful move in my opinion. It is exceptionally strong. It is strong enough that it can be considered the best counter hit move in the game right now. It's absolutely fantastic. And you can't take, in my opinion, the most powerful move that a character has and change it from being safe to punishable without severely altering the way the character is going to function and making them a lot weaker. So I think this is really big. Now, a comment that I got that I saw, and this is something that we need to address here, is that, well, the standing 4 by itself is going to remain safe because it's gone from -7 to -9, so this is still safe, right? Why don't you just combo off of the standing 4? Well, let's have a look at that situation. First of all, right now, if you hit with this normally, you're just going to press 2-2. It's a completely guaranteed and very easy to do combo. It's going to come out all the time with Catarina, and because of your really good wall carry and wall game, it's on-demand 80 plus damage all the time, and so much of Katarina's damage comes out of the fact that she can counter hit with this. And it's also what makes her so scary in the close-up game, because you're poking, then every once in a while there's a chance that you're just going to blow your opponent up for half their life bar with this amazing counter hit move, right? Well, now that this is punishable on block when you do this and this, it means that you're not going to be able to do it as often. So why not just use the 4 by itself? That should be just as good, right? Well, problem is it's so much harder to combo off of this single hit. I saw one of my commenters say, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but I saw one of my commenters saying, well, that doesn't affect me because I find all counter hit force in the game extremely easy to combo off of, or something like that. That was a paraphrase, but I don't know what that means because there are so many different counter hit force. I mean, Elisa, which, you know, they're slow, they spin on the first hit. Leo's on the screen right here, her counter hit 4, you have to do very clutch dash jabs, and you almost can't ever get a combo at all, so you have to do some awkward little improvised combo. You have stuff like Cosme where you can get a combo, but you have to react fast. They're all different, and they can't all be super easy for you to combo off of, and this one definitely isn't. So what I'm trying to get to here is that if you want to combo off of this hit by itself, you need to do very fast and clutch dashing for it to work. What you can do right now is you can dash into 4-4-2-4, and you can get the spin in the combo. But this is, first of all, not easy to do, but even if you can do it reliably, which I doubt, I honestly think this is difficult enough that it will not find its way into competitive play much. I mean, I can do it here. Let's see if we can get it out. Too fast. There it is. So, I mean, you can do it. It's not difficult enough that it's impossible, but one thing you have to keep in mind is that I have to be very close to Leo for that to work, and I also, like, if I'm out here, I mean, good luck reaching with this move. It's just not really going to happen. And if there are other transitions, like other dash moves you can do here to get in and make this combo work, then maybe those are a little bit easier. But it's definitely hard enough that this combo is not on demand anymore, and most people who play Katarina, if not all of them, aren't going to be able to use this for a counter hit launcher anymore. Unless, and this is the big caveat to what I'm saying here, unless some other change to Katarina has made it so that she can combo more easily off of the single hit here. If that's the case, then Katarina's going to remain strong. It's not going to be that big of a nerf. She can just keep on counter hitting when they're standing for. She doesn't have to do the extensions, and it's going to be just fine. But right now, as far as I know, this is difficult enough to do that it's a huge nerf to the character. So unless, you know, a new spin move or some sort of transition makes this easier to do, it's kind of bye-bye to this string. If you're playing someone who has a good 10-frame block punisher like Kazuya and you're still trying to hit with this, he's going to have a field day just slamming you to the ground every time you attempt a counter hit move. So yeah, I think this is one of the most significant nerfs to the character, one of the most significant nerfs we've seen in the patch notes so far, and it's going to make the character a lot weaker. But like I say, don't get too hung up on it, because it might turn out that, oh, you can just do BB and then it just works still. Who knows? But right now it just doesn't, because this is not easy to combo into. Okay, let's keep going. Forward 3, damage change from 27 to 23, so it's a damage. Let's turn off counter hit so we get real numbers. So this has had a damage nerf. It did a lot of damage, so that's kind of fine. Change from -9 to ±0 on blocks. It's another move that's substantially buffed in terms of its frame data. ±0 on block is good. You can go in here and then you can keep on doing offense. That's very good. It's going to help her momentum. It makes the move very viable for Oki. I mean, you can go over, get up low kicks with this, slam them back to the ground, and if they block it, ±0. Very good. Opponent reaction on normal hit and counter hit change. So who knows what this means? They write this a lot, and it's difficult for us to know what they're talking about, but it's potentially good. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's a substantial buff to forward 3, so that's good. It's another move that only sees very occasional usage currently, so it deserves to be buffed. Forward 4 transition timing made faster by 5 frames. Oh, forward 4D. So this is Harrier into crouch. You can cancel Harrier into crouch currently, and this is 5 frames faster now, which is good. Like I said, I think changes to Harrier are interesting because right now it's almost exclusively a combo stance and not really a mix-up stance. And if it can become more of a mix-up stance, then that's potentially the saving grace that's going to help Catarina now that her counter hit 4 doesn't really work anymore. Now we get to the Harrier moves, and this is really interesting. During Harrier 1, added crouch status. So they say added crouch status to this move, and I wonder what this means. It can mean one of two things. It can mean that Katarina is actually going to high crush more consistently during this and be considered crouching during the animation, or, and this is probably the more likely option, she's going to recover in full crouch after the move is finished. Because if you look at, if I do this and I press 4 or 1, she's going to do her normal one. She's not going to do her while standing one. This does not recover in full crouch. You can do Harrier into this and recover in full crouch, but not after this move. So I think that's what it means, that this is going to recover in crouch. Next, during Harrier 2, change from -14 to -6 on block. This is big. This is a big and very good buff to Harrier. This is really good because, like I said earlier, this is not really a mix-up stance right now, because the only really significant mid you have is this move. It's good, but it's kind of slow. This is a fast and powerful mid that you can throw out here. It knocks it down. It's really good for a lot of reasons, but it was punishable up until this point, which meant that you couldn't really use it for much else than floor breaking. But now that it's safe, you have a great mid for your Harrier mix-up here, so what a good change for this stance. Really, really good. -6 is not that bad at all, so this is a significant buff, and I guess this is one of the main reasons you guys were saying you thought she was buffed, and you're absolutely right. This is a good thing for the character. During Harrier 3, changed from 25 to 23 damage, so slight damage nerf to this move. Opponent reaction on normal and counter hit was changed, so I wonder what that means. This is a seeable and launched punishable low, so I don't know what it means when they say it's changed. If it's going to remain as seeable and launch punishable low, then it's going to remain pretty obscure in my opinion. The only time this move gets used right now, it sees occasional use as kind of like an Oki tool and a gap closing tool. You can surprise an opponent who's getting up from downtown and knock them down with this. It's sometimes useful, but it's not huge. During Harrier 4, causes wall bounce. So this is your wall bounce attack with Katarina. And something that we learned yesterday is that wall bounce, I was assuming that wall bounce was going to be something that you can do in a combo to get more wall damage, but a lot of you were commenting saying that wall bounce is only going to work when it hits a standing opponent, and then it's going to bounce them off the wall. Unfortunately, what this means, as far as I'm concerned, is that wall bounce is pretty shitty and is a pretty superficial and cosmetic change to the game that isn't going to be as significant as I was thinking. That depends completely on what character you are talking about. Good wall splatting power crush moves like Mach Punch, if they have wall bounce, then yeah, you're going to have a lot more fun wall splatting your opponent with those moves. But if you're given the wall bounce property to a move that isn't going to be used for wall splatting anyway, and it can't be used in a combo when you can get it guaranteed, it just means that some characters aren't really going to be wall bouncing all that much. With Catarina, it's going to come down to whether or not a Harrier is going to be successful as a mix-up stance, because if it is, if you can force your opponent to duck during Harrier going forward, then you can hit with this 4 and you can get that wall bounce. But I don't think it's going to happen. My prediction is that Katarina isn't going to be wall bouncing a whole lot, because her while she has good mids now, she has this good mid, she has this good mid, and she has this potentially good mid if you're wall bouncing with it. She doesn't have good stuff to mix it up with, because this low is still, I think, a little bit too slow and a little bit too risky. And the other thing that you might want to duck, which is something that was actually at the end of the list, but I'm going to bring it up now, is that they've given you your 1+2 throw out of Harrier. You're going to be able to do Harrier into that throw. So that's going to connect. And again, like, sure, maybe your opponent's going to want to duck that. The duck becomes a more juicy option because they can launch if they duck this. But what a good opponent is just going to do is know that the only throw that can come out of Harrier is a 1+2 break. So if they see a throw, they're just going to break 1+2 and then it's over, and then they take no damage. So they can react to this and deal with it. They can react to this and deal with it, meaning that there isn't really a big incentive to duck. So I think what's going to happen going forward when you try to mix up with Harrier is your opponent's just going to stand block most of the time. And then, it's not really that good, to be honest. This is my prediction. We'll have to see what happens. In low ranks where people don't break 1+2 all that much, and where people don't react to this low all that much, it's going to make the stance a lot better, but I don't think it's going to help her in a sort of higher competitive environment. Okay, that was Harrier 4. During Harrier D, so during Harrier D, I guess is when Katarina stops in the middle of Harrier stance to get some dick. I don't know. No, what they are talking about actually is cancelling Harrier into down, into crouch. Recovery decreased by 2 frames, so they've made that a little bit faster. That's good. Now, this next one is fun and interesting. Forward 1+2. Forward 1+2 changed from -12, so punishable, to +1 on block. So we talked about earlier how bringing a move from punishable to safe, or safe to punishable, is a big change, but changing it from minus to plus, or changing it from punishable to plus on block is huge. It completely changes the properties of the move, and it makes its application different. Now, this didn't have application before. It wasn't used at all, and the reason I think this is such a fun change is this is actually a change that I suggested in a video like a week ago, and it sort of makes me feel like maybe I do have a little bit of a handle on this character and what should happen to her. It made me kind of happy that I was able to predict that, but Basically, it's going to give you slight plus frames on block now, and it's very fair. The move is still high, but you can use this, and if it gets blocked, you can get a mix-up. That's good. They've done the exact same thing to the back for 1+2 extension. So that's cool as well. And this string is another thing that they've buffed about her. We're going to get to it in a little bit. But I think this is a good buff for Katarina. She has a nice move that she can collect some plus frames with here. It's kind of like a back one from Brian, but slightly shittier because it's high. But it has significant range. So I actually think this move is going to be used. So if you are a Katarina player, you're going to be sad about the fact that you can't counter hit 4 anymore. But you can now collect plus frames on the fly with a pretty fast high here. So very, very nice. Cool. I really like it. Next, forward 3+4 changed from -17 to -13. So your power crush, which you only use occasionally, not super good right now. This has gone from launch punishable to just punishable at -13. This means that the move is better, and this move deserves to be better. I like it. It's going to be more useful for wall splats right now. Slightly more similar to Miguel's back 4, but not quite as good still, I think, because I think it's still slower. But it's yeah, it's a significant move now. It's a pretty good buff to this, and you're not going to get launch punished for using it anymore. So more power crushing for Katarina. That's good for her. Forward 3+4 change from yeah, that's what we just talked about. Sorry, down forward 1. Okay. This is the next really big nerf to Katarina, and the other reason I said yesterday that I think she's been nerfed to the floor. Because down forward 1, opponent closer on block and further away on hit, so they've changed the hit and block properties of this down forward 1. That's probably not too significant, but this is the big one. Down forward 1-1. Opponent now able to crouch second hit when first hit blocked. So this string used to jail, and strings like this don't typically jail. If you look at Eliza, if you look at Miguel, if you look at Akuma's version of this, the second hit, they all have pretty much versions of this string. Excuse me, the second hit is always duckable if you react fast enough, but with Katarina you couldn't duck this because it was a jailing string, and so that was the other really significant thing that I liked about Katarina that stood out as super powerful. And now if the opponent is fast enough, they're going to duck this and they're going to launch you. And I have pretty poor reaction time as a Tekken player, but I duck this when I play against Miguel all the time. So if I can do it, then you can definitely do it as well, and it's going to mean you get launched when applying this a lot more now. And it makes the string a lot worse. So I think, really, if you ask me what are the 3 best Katarina moves, the most powerful, the most used, the most standout good moves with Katarina, I would probably have said counter hit 4-4 or 4-4, her down forward 1 string, and her 4-4-3. I think these moves are like the great, amazing trifecta. I mean, her hop kick is obviously super significant as well. But 2 of those moves, the most important ones, have seen really big nerfs. This not working, or it still works as a counter tool, but it's going to be punishable, is huge, and this being duckable and launch punishable is huge. So you've taken big hits to your 2 favorite moves, and it's going to be a big change. So like I mentioned, we're going to have to lab Katarina when this comes out. Don't be scared and feel like you shouldn't play her if you like her going forward. But be aware that you're going to have to play her differently. If she's still usable, if she's still good, it's going to be because she's playing in a different way. She's probably using, you know, maybe 1-1-3 and stuff like forward 3 to set up counter hits with down forward 4 instead of the 4 string. And she's probably using Harrier a little bit more. Who knows? So yeah, there are some interesting stuff. I mean, she's collecting plus frames with forward 1+2 and back for 1+2. So it's good things are happening as well. But I think on the whole, it's damage to the character. But we're gonna have to wait and see. Next thing that I think is interesting here is let's see here. Okay, yeah. Again, this Harrier transition has had the same change as this one and this one. So this is like an umbrella change that stands for her. Next, down for 2, opponent reaction on hit was changed. This is very interesting because down for 2 is a super good and important move for you. Natural combo, obviously, with this for wall splats and punishment. The 4 extension is the safe high mix-up that gives you plus frames. This is a very important string. I don't know what this down forward 2 change on hit has meant. If it's a buff, then it's significant. This is another potential big buff for Katarina, but we have to know like exactly what changed on hit means here. But it's something that's probably the first thing we should be checking out when the patch drops. And then down for 2-2, opponent closer on block. This actually had a fair amount of pushback on block, like that. And now it's going to be closer. I don't know how big that is. Maybe it's to make it easier to punish on block, because it is punishable on block. Next, down forward 3. The changes to this string aren't really that significant, but because the string isn't really used right now. The one thing I think is interesting is that this cancel into crouch has better recovery. Down forward 3-3 down. Let's see here. Recovery decreased by 3 frames, which might mean that this is easier to or more difficult to interrupt, meaning that you can actually do legit mix-ups with this cancel. And if that's true, then that's going to be fun to do. Right now, what's going to happen if you play a good player and you try to use this cancel, mixing it, finishing the string and mixing that with the cancel into a while standing mid like that, is your opponent's just going to interrupt you. But if this is fast enough that they can't do that reliably anymore, then it's a significant buff to this string. And my guess is that the string is going to remain obscure. Down forward 3+4. This is another interesting and powerful buff. Down forward 3+4 is your Tekken tail, one of your most powerful lows, and a move that I love, and a move that people who don't like Catarina probably hate. It has massive range, it does great damage, but the range is pretty crazy, and it works even against good players. It's just fast enough that it's going to hit even good players, so it's a really, really big move for her. And this was changed from -16 to -14 on block, meaning that a lot of characters aren't going to be able to launch punish this anymore, and that's big for you. It means that this move is even more useful, and it's already very useful, so that's great. Changed from ±0 to +2 on hit, so you even get a frame advantage on hit now, so you can do this from downtown and then actually go into mix-up. So it's a significant buff to this move, so this is another thing to be happy about if you do like to play Katarina. Down to forward, same change as the other Harrier stance transitions. Down 3, opponent closer on block. Down 3-3, opponent closer on block. Down 3-4, further away on hit. Opponent reaction, counter hit was changed. So down 3-4 doesn't really do anything particular on counter hit right now. It gives a little nosebleed thingy like that. So who knows what that changes? Could be anything. Back 1 forward, same as the other Harrier stance transitions, more recovery but bigger window for Harrier inputs. Back 1-1, this is an interesting one. Damage changed from 15 to 20, so this second hit is going to do 5 more damage, which is good. Changed from -8 to -12 on blocks. This string has gone from safe to punishable, which is significant, it's important, it's going to change how you use the string. And opponent reaction on hit changed. I wonder what that means. If it just means that the string is going to launch, then it's pretty big, because this is a natural combo on counter hit. It's not a natural combo normally, like you can see right here, but if this means that it's going to be a launcher, it kind of looks like it has the animation of one, then it deserves to be punishable, and it's going to be pretty useful. So it's a cool little counter hit move for you. Maybe your new stand-in for the fact that your 4 doesn't work as well anymore. If that's the case, then this is going to be really good. It kind of reminds me of back 1-2 from Elisa, which is a move that was nerfed. We haven't talked about that yet, but potentially very interesting. This is another thing that we want to try out right away. We need to find out what changed on counter hit means, though. Or reaction on hit, sorry. What reaction on hit means. Could be anything again. It could be a knockdown. It could be that it just sends them away slightly different in a different way. Back 2 changed from -13 to -16. So back 2 is a shitty move that never sees any usage with Katarina. It was -13. Now it's launch punishable, so it's probably gone from being a bad move that you never use to one of the worst moves in the history of Tekken. Unless... Because another thing it says here is opponent closer on hit added crouch status. So what does that mean? This move does not look like it's going to be recovering in full crouch. Do they actually mean that she's going to crouch during the animation? Is she going to go under stuff with this? Is it going to have significant crush properties now? Is it going to be kind of like a little Matterhorn kind of thing for her? because right now the evasive properties of the backswing here aren't big enough to use it as a backswing blow. If you want a backswing blow with Katarina, you use back 3+4 currently, which is pretty good. But this is crap, and I think it's going to be crappier. I don't think the change is going to make it useful, but it depends on what they mean by added crouch status. It could mean anything, but it's launch punishable now, so it's, I think, probably still pretty crappy. Back 4, opponent closer on block, and this is another interesting one. Back 4, 3+4. This is something that we saw. It's an extension to this move, and it's going to be mid. And this is something that we predicted when we saw one of the trailers for Season 2, the wall bounce preview. The reason this has happened is that we talked about how the headbutt is now plus on block, right? And back 4 into the headbutt is also plus on block, meaning that you want to use this to get plus frames. Problem being that the hit high can be ducked, right? So in order for this to be useful, you need a mid to mix up the high, and they've given you one, so it's really it makes a lot of sense. We don't know the frame data of the extension yet, but once we get our hands on that, we're going to be able to tell if this is a very useful mix-up, and it might be this into plus frames on block, knockdown on hit, or a good safe mid extension that knocks it down potentially. It could be really, really good. So I'm super excited about back for 3+4, and we're gonna have to wait and see. If it's punishable, it's not gonna be really useful. If it's safe, it's gonna be pretty big. Up back 4, delay. Okay, so the little bug where you can delay the input of this to make it come out faster like that has been removed. Makes sense to me. 4-4-2-4. So this is the move that you can almost get to counter hit off of your standing 4 currently, like I showed you earlier. This thing. This has been buffed. Changed from -14 to -9 on block. So from punishable to safe, which is big, causes screw on hit. So this is actually going to be a normal hit launcher, more or less. The move isn't really used all that much, but now that it has a launch property, maybe you're actually going to be using this as a quick whiff punisher for a good combo. Potentially significant. It is a spin move currently. You can do this, but maybe it's going to be more useful as a fast whiff punisher now. I don't see it superseding your already amazing and long-range hop kick that you're using for whiff punishment currently, but maybe, because it has the dash, so the range is very respectable. So that's cool. Causes screw on hit, yeah. Forward 3 or during Harrier up forward 3. So you're the other really important move that I mentioned earlier. Jump status changed from 11 to 9, so this hasn't seen any significant change, and that's good because it's such an important move for you, and you really don't want this nerfed too. If this was nerfed, and this was nerfed, your best 3 moves basically would have been nerfed, but this has stayed the same. It's just gonna get jump status 2 frames faster. While running 3, this is pretty cool. This move used to be minus. It used to be -5. Now it's +1. So it's a running move that can give you plus frames on block. Katarina didn't have a traditional slash kick to do that earlier, but now she kind of does with this. So that's pretty cool for her. That's going to be good. It's still probably linear, but it is really good. While rising 1-1, so this is a punisher that you have right now. This currently jails. They've removed the jailing property on this, similar to the thing that they did to this, so they're going to be able to duck this right now, meaning that the only time you're going to want to use the string is for punishment, because then they can't duck, because it's natural, right? But a good thing is that they've given you more damage on it. They've given you 2 more damage on the second hit, and 2 more damage on the first hit. So it's going to be a slightly better block punisher than it is right now, and that's cool. Because it was kind of crappy before, but you're only going to use it for punishment. You're not going to use it for just doing it, because you run the risk of getting ducked, and that's very dangerous. While rising 2, opponent closer on hit and block. This is a move that used to have massive pushback and be pretty safe because of that, and they already nerfed this pushback one time, and now they're going to nerf it even more, so they don't like the fact that this has pushback apparently, so it's going to be very easy to block punish going forward. While crouching down forward 4, this significant low here, this is good for Katarina. Opponent reaction on counter hit was changed, so this is what it does on counter hit currently. Who knows, maybe it gives a full knockdown and guaranteed damage on counter hit. If that's the case, then she's even scarier from full crouch than she is currently, so that's potentially very good. When enemy down 3+4, so the stomp changed from -21 frames to -20 on block. Change from -10 to -9 on hit, so slight change to the frame data of your landing smash, this move. Not too significant probably, unless it changes the guaranteed stomp wall combo. And approach enemy down forward 1+2. This throw, you're going to be able to do this out of Harrier, which we already mentioned. So there's a new move called Harrier down forward 1+2, and it's going to be this throw out of Harrier. That's going to wrap Katarina up. Overall, I have to say that I'm going to stand by my statement that she was nerfed yesterday, because I think the change to 4 and 4 is so big. But like I say, if you can still get good combos off of just standing 4 like that, then the nerf isn't that big at all. It's actually a pretty exciting buff overall to Katarina, looking at her move list. So it's all going to depend on whether or not you can still reliably combo off of your counter at 4. The other big change, or the other big nerf, really is the fact that you don't jail with this string anymore, and good players are going to duck this and launch you, so get ready for that. But there were some really cool changes to a couple of other moves as well. 113 plus minus 0, 113 plus minus 0 on block, 43 plus minus 0 on block, plus frames off of this thing, plus frames off of this thing, and I think probably the most significant change to your mix-up game, the fact that you can collect plus frames with this headbutt, meaning that it's not only currently or suddenly a useful move, which it isn't currently, it's a really good move, and it's going to be even better if it turns out that the back 4 transition into 3+4, which is the new move, is really good. So we're going to be waiting with bated breaths for the frame data of that extension. But that's going to wrap up my little look at Katarina. Apart from that, the changes to Harrier, potentially interesting, but I think the character was nerfed overall. But that's my prediction. It's not my, it's not my judgment. It's not the final say on the character. It's my gut feeling based on what we've seen. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.